Hey y'all, Jason Duke's Dirt Race Life. This video is on our Crate Racing USA Street Stock build. This is the first video regarding how to build the roll cage for the car. We're going to cover one tube, it's the most critical one, the main hoop. How we go about figuring out these angles, the distances and measurements to make this come out right, to go exactly where we want it. We get this one right, all the rest of them just fall into place. Stick around. First measurement that we need to work out is what is the width of our main hoop. This is a 73-77 mid-size GM frame, like a Chevelle or a Le Mans. This is a 73 Pontiac Le Mans is what this donor frame is from. And the way that I've built my floor in and worked out my plan, I'm going to go with 46 inches center of tube to center of tube. Now, depending on your particular build and how far forward you want to put this roll cage, you may go wider than that. One of the reasons it's as narrow as 46 is because I have a main 2x2 square tubing in this rear that is actually the support for my lower control arm bracket. I'm tying directly into this piece, and it is rearward of where my frame turns out. So that allows me to narrow up my roll cage hoop some. 46 inches also puts me where my tube can be in line with my rear frame arm right here. That will vary frame to frame. It will be different on a metric from what this 73-77 frame is. It's also different on a Camaro. So this is 46, whereas on the Camaro I go 48. And if you were to come out onto the horn of the frame where it turns, and in some classes they have rules about setback, you have to be up here, then you're out at 52 or 54 inches. For this build, 46 inches is our number. So with that known, we can work out the rest of it on the board. We know we're 46 inches between our two down legs for a hoop. I've got my hoop drawn out right here. I sat in the seat and checked to see I was 38 inches from the base of the seat to the top of my helmet. Then I saw what the height of the seat would be. I'm using my datum of my jig floor for all of my measurements. So I'm 14 inches from that point. Where the tubes tie on at is 12 inches from that point. So the tubes where they weld onto my frame will be 2 inches below where the base of my seat is. 46 inches is my number that I came up with, and that's based on this 38 inches plus 2 more inches is 40 inches, and I want 6 inches above my head. And so that's how I'm coming up with 46 inches right here. So I transfer that over where I've drawn out for my actual main hoop itself. 46 inches on this side. Then I'm going to be 30 inches across the top over my head. I'm going to have a down leg, and then I'm going to have a base leg over here, and it's going to tie in 46 inches across the center. Now this 90 degree in the corner, that one's easy. But where it gets tricky is where we're going to put these two 45 degree angles in right here. And you have to make this come out so that when I take these bends and consider the economy of the tubing use during the bend itself, make this come out at 46 inches for this far leg. The way we're going to do that is we're going to use a little bit of geometry. We're going to use the hypotenuse of a triangle. So I figured it up, and I'm going to be 16 inches over, 30 inches here, 46 inches total. So that's 16 inch leg over, and I'm going to go 16 inch leg down. And the way this works out, I'm going to take the hypotenuse of a triangle. It's pretty simple math. It's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So it's 16 squared plus 16 squared. And then I'll take the square root of that number and I come up with 22 5/8. And so just the math here, basically that 16 squared is 256 plus 256 equals 512. Punch 512 into a calculator, use a square root symbol, and I get 22 5/8 of an inch. And so that's telling me what my down leg is. All of these measurements are true center point measurements. And what we'll do is we'll use our cheaters. I'm going to use a 45 cheater for these two bends right here. I'm going to use a 90 over here. But these cheaters that I've made, they've got the original marks for the 1-inch increments all the way around with the points where they go through the tubing bender. And what that's going to do is that's going to let me figure out where to make this bend starting so that this ends up being the size that I've drawn out here on the board, and hopefully we'll get our 46-inch centers on point. So let's get started. Okay, check this out. This is a JD Model 32 bender right here, and I made a couple cheaters, and I'll show you. So far I've made a 22.5, a 45, and a 90. Now for this build, I'm going to use this 45 degree and this 90. And when it comes to making these, I'm going to put a link below in the description. There's a gentleman that has a channel called the Fabricator Series, and he specifically uses this bender, and he has some great instructional videos on how to go about making these cheaters and using them. And so I'd recommend checking that out. And I just want to show you, I'm just going to give you a very abbreviated, basically what it boils down to is, you're going to put in a piece of straight pipe. Let me see if I can get this to stay up here. So what you're going to do is you're going to put in a piece of straight pipe. And it really doesn't matter where this is so much, because what you're after is, I'm going to lock that down. What you're after is this. When you're on 0 right here, and this is pulled up tight, there's a follower right here. You're going to mark that follower. And that's what you're creating in one of these cheaters. Because when you look at this, and I'll lay it here, here's what it is. Before I ever bent this tube, I took and marked 1-inch increments along the top of the bend. And then after I made the 1-inch increments, I put it in. And this line that I scored in, that way as I use this and it gets beat up, this will still be here. This line right here is that edge right there. And so now, like you see, I have a red mark. That's the center of that bend. And so like when I have a 45, if I say, well, to the center of my 45 needs to be a certain measurement, then I can figure out, well, I can measure and I can see that I'm 1 inch, 2 inches exactly to the center of that bend from the edge of that follower. So now, when I put a piece of tubing into this bender, I know exactly what mark to take and put it to make my 45 be exactly in the middle. That's how these cheaters work. They're very useful. And you just make one up for each angle bend that you're going to make. So you can see, like, here's a 90, for example. And it's the same deal. I've got a mark, and then I've got my inches. So far, I've used the JD2 Model 32 here to do this one tube and some bumper work. And that's all I've used this for. And I'm already in love with it. This thing is so easy to work with. I'd recommend this to anybody who's doing roll cage work. Absolutely. The only thing that could improve upon this is just if I upgraded this to the hydraulic ram would be it. Other than that, it's perfect. Okay, so now that we've covered our bender, let's start bending. This is 1.5 095 DOM. And when we measure the bars for this main hoop for a plan, it's not but about 130 inches of tubing usage. But we're going to cut this long. We're going to intentionally leave these down legs long. So I'm going to take, and I'm just going to cut it at 144 inches. So I'm going to leave myself quite a bit of overage. Probably going to leave 6 to 8 inches of overage on both ends and then trim that off. I don't want to come up short. So let me show you this. So I'm gonna take my cheater and I'll lay my cheater up here. This mark is where the die starts, and that's my mark for it. And I'm 6 inches from the top of this tube to that, and I am 5 1/4 to the center, and the 46 inches is to the center of that tube, and so I'm 5 1/4 right here. And so if I'm 46 inches to the center of that, and that 5 1/4, I will take and subtract that from 40. So I'll subtract that 5 1/4 from 46. That gives me 40 3/4, and I'm going to add 6 inches to it. So 40 3/4 is 46 3/4. So my mark where I'm going to go in the tubing center is 46 3/4. So I'm going to mark that. All right. So I'm going to lock that down good and tight. All right. Bring it up. Make sure we're on 0, and we are. Make sure we're on the line. And we're going to go 90 degrees. A little more. Yeah. All right. Yep. Okay. So we got our 90. Now it gets tricky. See how well we did on our accordion bend. Right there. We got our first bend laid out here. I'm going to lay a square up on that center. I want to be 30 inches from the center of this to where this bend is. And so I'm just going to lay this tape measure up here. Try not to move anything. And that's where I want the center. That's where I want the center of that 45-degree bend is right there. And so the way we're going to do that, we're going to take our 45, and you have to figure out, so the end with this is where it comes out of the die. So the bend is going on this side of it, and so I want my bend to be on, and we'll stick it in and bend that way. So I take and I say, well, where is the center of my bend? And so if that's my center, I want my 30. I want my 45 to be right in that center up there. Yes. So I take all that up. I want the die to be right here. I'll put my die right here. Come around. And then 45 out from us. This is my mark right here, using a cheater. Now when you make a second bend, this is where it gets tricky because I gotta make sure that this tube stays level in my bender. My bender now is level. Oh, that's backwards. Hang on, turn it over. Yep. I make sure I stay level in the bender. So here we go. I'm gonna mark my tube on around. Let's see if y'all can see this. Got my mark. Make sure I stay on the right side of everything, the correct side of everything, not the right necessarily. You reset this tubing bender. I'll set my pipe in here. And I'm going to set my guide in place. I may have to. This is right about now where you need 3 arms. Drop that in. Alright. Pull that back. Now right here is where you have to stop, slow down, and be patient. So I'm going to take my level, and I'm going to stick my level over here on top of this roll bar and make sure that I'm sitting at 90 degrees. It's not the end of the world if you're off a little, but if you can keep from it, you don't want to be off. All right, make sure my line is pulled up tight on my jig, and then I'm going to lock it down right there. Make sure that my wire is at 0 where it shows 0 degrees. So right now I'm at 0 degrees. So we're going to 45 on this one. Alright, so now that I got her tight. Yeah. I'm sitting at about a ½ degree one way or the other, that's fine. I'm just hitting my spring now. So that's probably it right there. All right, so there's my 45. Looking good, looking good, looking good, looking good. Yes, sir. Loosen it up. There's 90, 45, and we got 45 going right here. Now right here is where we have to trust our math. Our math told us 22 5/8, and so we got to trust our math. That's the reason Kids, stay in school. Math matters. Legs up here, right there, and let's see where's all of these. Right, so I got my center of my bar mark still in it right there, and that did work out to the center, it looks like. And if everything is correct, this center projected out on a true line. I'm 22 5/8 from there to there on those two centers, so I should be able to get that right. Let's see. So it's not a 90-degree bend, so that makes it a little bit easier to just have a projected turn. So 22 5/8. I'm gonna mark it. All right, so there's 22 5/8. So that should be my center of the turn down here. And then I just repeat the exercise. I want my bend this way, out of the machine this way. And I hope I've got clearance so we can do that. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna take my center mark of my cheater and put it on the center. And I'm gonna roll that around. And I want it to come out of the die. Here's my mark where it comes out of the die, right here. All the way around with that. Yep. Alright. If I've done everything correctly, which I may or may not have, if I put a 45-degree here, and I'm 22 5/8 center to center here, and let's see if my 30 come up. Yep, I'm 30 inches center to center here. Then when I make this bend, I should end up 46 inches between these two down lower legs. Let's hope. This is not what I do every day, so let's hope it comes out right. We're going to make it, we're going to give it a valiant attempt. All right, back in the die you go. Come on, Betsy. Showing 0. I'm going to lock this down. I'm in the die line. I had to take my jig leg out for a minute. I mounted right off the corner of this jig, which is a really good spot, but it does cause me a problem with the very longest bend that I'd make. So like this hoop. Fortunately, all the rest of these tubes, I shouldn't have a problem like that. I thought I was going to be okay and not have to take that leg out. But I took the leg out on the jig, and then I'll turn around and put it right back. Keep all the measurements and everything the same. I shouldn't have a problem doing that. I hate that I did, but I had to. So we're going back to 45 again. Right here, spring it up, and that looks right. And here's what I'm gonna do. Now right here, nothing's perfect. So I'm in the bender, and I need 46 inches. And regardless of exactly how my measurements worked out, I'm gonna take this leg to 46 inches. So we'll see how close we are. And right now, we're at about 45 right now already, so let's see. Yeah, we're at about 45. So I'm gonna quit bending because if anything, I'm gonna spread it open just a little bit. Now if we were 0 the whole time, these two legs, everything should look square, and it does. It's so little I can't see it. Open it up just a hair. And then let's measure it again. Let's see what we got. Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. We are fine, fine, fine. All right, lay it up here where I really measure it right. Oh yeah. I'm happy with that. That works for me. So the next step, so I've got that. We're 46 inches center to center. The next step is going to be, I want to take and cut these tubes off where they're going to mount into this tubing piece, right? This square piece of 2-inch tubing across. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and clamp a straight edge across that top where I can be level at the top, because I know this bar is level. So I'm going to get level across the top, and then I'm going to take a measurement, center of the tube down to 46 inches on this side, and then center of the tube down to 46 inches on that side. Get a chop saw out and cut those true 90 degrees to each other. And then on this frame, I'm going to sit the seat, I'm going to put just a little bit of layback in it, but I'm going to trim them to do the layback. I'm going to cut them 90 to start with. Make sure when I set them up there, it's level across the top and everything. And I'm going to put my jig leg back in. So that's next. Clamped a straight edge across my header where that I know that it's good to straight level across there. And then I'm going to turn around, and that's clamped. That line is clamped right on the center of the bar. And now I'm going to take and I'm going to mark 46 inches. Right there. Now when I cut these two off, it should sit square on the car. That's the next step. I didn't today. Again. We've beveled the bottom of our hoop here, and the reason being I put 5 degrees, kind of just eyeball that in. I'm wanting to set this at 85 degrees. I don't want a lot, I want just a little bit of layback. I'm going to sit fairly straight up in the car, but it will help me with my seat some. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take and we are going to spot this in at 85. And what I'm going to do, I've got a mark that tells me exactly where 46 is. I'm going to have my angle finder on it. I'm going to set it exactly 46. I'm going to set it exactly 85 degrees, and then I'm going to put a spot on it to hold it in place. And then I'll go to the other side, match it up, and do it again. We'll have a spot again. We'll lay that in for a second. Right there. Set that right here. Set this right here. then our final sanity check is, did our top come out level? 0.1, and the tolerance on this is only 0.3, so we're great. And then let's check our height. So 46 inches exactly to the center of the tube, and then the seat is about right here, and I'm showing 44 inches to the center of the tube. And I said I was 38 inches from the bottom of the seat to the top of my helmet, so that's 6 inches of clearance. This is by far the hardest tube to put in for the roll cage, because this is your foundation. Like when you build a house, this is the one you have to get right and get square, because you tie everything off of it. And we are right where we want to be. Yes, indeed, we are. .46 exact. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. This main hoop, we'll put a few welds in to hold it securely in place where that we can tie onto it. However, we won't completely burn in all of the welding until we have a structure overall in place. That way, any heat soaking that's happening while we're doing that welding, we're distributing it, moving it around. No particular tubes are twisting or pulling on us as we do that. Next video coming up for the Craig Racing Street Stock build will be that top hoop over the head, the front down bars, and then that'll start making it get where we can see some cage structure coming to life here on this car. If you like what you see here, hit the like button. Leave me a comment. I appreciate it, reading all of them. It is helping tremendously, so thank you. And hit the subscribe button. Help me build this channel. Thank y'all.